We do need to take a bit of time and talk about arena etiquette. This is important that we are considerate of everyone using the ring and not just think about ourselves. When a rider comes in to ride, it's important that they move away from the gate. We don't want them in the way on the rail. But if we're already in the ring riding, we need to keep an eye on that rider that's getting mounted up and making sure that we're not creating any problem that could cause them to get in trouble. So here we have the rider, she's in the ring, and both riders were very considerate of the rider that was mounting. When riding in a ring, we must always be considerate of other riders. We often see traffic jams, so it's our job to plan how we're going to pass these other horses. We're going to watch here and see how these riders handle this situation. Now they're all going to go faster than a walk. The second rider is starting to think that maybe she'd like to go a little bit faster than what the first horse is going. So you notice her coming up. She should be watching the reaction of her horse and the Appaloosa, looking back over her shoulder, making sure she's a safe distance away. And when she is, she'll cut in. Bay horse has decided to pass them both and just not go the full end of the arena and get out in front. So these are all riders who are thinking. The slow rider will stay close to the rail so the faster riders can pass. We always do this because who's likely going to get in trouble and need to go in the center and circle down? Usually it is the person that's going faster. So we allow those faster riders to be closer to the center of the arena so they can get in there easier without having to cut through traffic. So slow riders will stay on the rail, faster riders will pass a safe distance closer to the center of the arena. They can either choose to pass just one horse, looking back over their shoulder, making sure they're not cutting it off and watching their horses and the other horse's reaction, or if necessary, they'll just cut across the arena and find a new spot to ride in. While riding in a group in the arena, again, our safety consciousness has to become more acute. We have to be aware of what everybody's doing. And from time to time, we may lose control physically where our horse is actually trying to run away with us or buck us off. And more often than that, we lose control mentally where the horse is distracted by something else. How do we know that? Because that's where his ears are. A horse is thinking about whatever he's looking at. So anytime we lose control, we want to see the riders go into the middle of the arena and circle down. So they're going to create that circle, open that inside rein, and pull that horse's head around until they regain control. How do they know when they've regained control? The horse's ears will be spending more time looking at them than looking at whatever it was they were looking at. When they've regained control, they'll just ride on, probably a little slower than what they were doing before. Obviously, we're going to have to pass another rider head on from time to time. The rule of the road is the same as driving, left shoulder to left shoulder. Leave at least one horse length distance in between the horses. Again, watch your horse and the other horse's reaction to you coming towards it. Welcome to the riding part of the video. The skills in this section are being demonstrated by regular 4-H members like you. So we chose people who are interested in lots of different horse activities. Do they make mistakes? Sure, there are a few, but all skills demonstrated would pass the rider level unless the video says otherwise. This is assuming that to pass the rider level, you must get 65% or better on the skill. You will notice that not every rider is wearing a helmet. We certainly encourage the use of helmets, but at the time this video was made, helmets were not mandatory in Alberta. Finally, we're ready to start Rider 1. We gave you the reference manual, then we gave you the assessment tool. Now, we have put together this video to help you get from the reference manual to the assessment. What's the plan? The plan is read the skill that you're working on in the manual, then watch that aspect of it on the video, then go out and learn to do by doing. Practice, practice, practice. And when you think you've got it all together, then that's the time to evaluate it by using the assessment tool. A really important skill that we often forget or don't practice often enough is getting the horses to give their head to a very gentle touch. Here we have a young rider and a horse, and she is going to demonstrate how she's going to take a hold of the bridle, and she's gently going to pull that horse's head towards her. So it's not a big pull. So go ahead and just gently bring that horse. See how she's jiggling her fingers, and bring the head, bring the head, bring the head, a little more. Yeah, and that's exactly what most horses are going to do, is move like that. So she'll just try it again and bring her again. And again, she'll move. Very good. Until that horse brings her head, then she'll give her a pat and say thanks. Then she'll go to the other side, change hands on the reins, and do exactly the same thing. So she's going to take a hold slowly, 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 and the horse is going to back up. That's normal. And she'll just do it even slower. All right? And she turned again a little bit. So we're going to try it one more time. So really slow, really slow. The horse is trying to look at the camera. So just quiet and just back up with her when she does that, and bring that head around. Really slow. Very good. Good job. And give her a pat. So the important thing about this skill is don't quit when they back up. Don't pull harder, but just stay back there by the front leg, by the shoulder, and continue to ask very softly and very quietly. And the big thing is, you have to wait until the horse gives. Don't expect the horse to automatically give right away. The first thing that we obviously have to do before we can start Rider 1 is get on. We need to help these 4-H'ers learn how to get on correctly. And the sooner you start to teach them that, the easier it will be as time goes on. The first thing this rider is going to do before she even thinks about getting on is make sure her horse is in a place in the arena, away from all gates, away from the rail, and away from all other horses. When the horse is calm and quiet and standing, then she's going to do a tack check. So we'll watch her do her tack check now. She's going to check her chin strap, she's going to check her throat latch, look at her head stall, then she's going to step back and check her cinch. When that's done, notice how she puts her reins around the horse's neck without letting them fall on the ground. So she's just going to put her finger in between, reach under the neck with her left hand, over the neck with the right hand, and bring the reins around. Cross the reins over the neck, make sure they're even, look down and check that. Now she's ready to get on. Her left hand will stay on the withers of the horse. She can grab a handful of mane if she wishes. Then she's going to step back and grasp the stirrup with her right hand. Her left foot will go in the stirrup, being very careful not to poke the horse in the belly. So her toe will be facing towards the front of the horse. Her right hand will go on the horn, and now she's going to bounce 2 or 3 or 5 times to get some energy to push herself up, not pull. So here we have a Rider 1 English rider. She too has to do a tack check, and obviously because the English bridle has a cavesson, she has a little more to check. So she's going to check her curb chain, her cavesson, and her throat latch. She's going to go back and check her girth, and she's going to bring her stirrup down. And she's going to go to the other side and bring the other stirrup down. Now, obviously, this rider is too short to get on the horse. So she's going to come around this side. She's going to lead the horse around in a small circle. And she's going to lead it up to a mounting block. So if the rider is using a mounting block, they must still get on correctly. And she'll bring him up. So spend some time to teach these horses to lead up to a mounting block. Okay, she's carefully going to put the reins up over his head, not hitting him in the eye or the ear. She's going to climb up on the mounting block without letting go of the reins. Fix her reins. Put her hand on the stirrup. Foot in without kicking the horse. Hand goes on the front of the saddle. Bounce. And up she goes. Good job. She's going to get her feet in the stirrups and even out her reins. Now, I don't know who thought about making these reins, but they are just an excellent aid for the instructor so that you can help the rider get their hands in the right places on the reins. So once the rider is mounted, the most important thing is that they are holding the reins correctly. That's their steering wheel, that's their control. I don't think there's anybody that says it better than Sally Swift. What she says about holding the reins is you hold them like you're holding two birds. Not so tight that you're going to hurt the birds, but not so loose that the birds are going to get away. So we want all four fingers around the reins, or if you wish, you can put the baby finger on the other side of the reins. Then she says, take those two birds and tip their heads slightly towards each other. And that's the angle that we need to ride with our hands. Then, where do we want the hands to be? Just ahead of the horn. We don't want the reins so loose that they're riding with their hands back against their belly, and we don't want them way up on the neck. So we'll just bring them up a little bit with a little bend in the elbow here, and there. That's where we want the reins to be. Once we've got that established so that we know that she has control of the horse, then we immediately are going to look at the length of the stirrups. We might adjust it again after we fix her basic position, but in the beginning we can eyeball it and decide if it's close to where it needs to be. If the rider is sitting correctly in the middle of the saddle and sitting on their seat bones and not sitting back on the back of their butt, then we should see a slight bend at the knee and at the ankle, because those are the two main shock absorbers to absorb the motion of the horse when it is moving. So if you have a straight-kneed rider or a rider that has their toes down, then probably the stirrups are a little bit too long. So those are two guidelines. Another immediate guideline that you can use is have the rider stand up in the saddle, and stand up please, and there will be, and stay up, there will be several inches between her seat and the seat of the saddle. Okay, and sit down again. The next aspect that we're going to look at now is to really try to get that basic position correct. If we don't start working on it now, by rider 3, they're not going to have it correct. So we need to work on that right from the beginning of rider 1 all the way through. Are they going to hold it and keep it? No. But the only way that our minds and bodies can learn is by getting that correct feel of what it is. So you need to get in there up close and personal and help find that position. The first thing that you need to establish is the seat. If the seat isn't correct, probably nothing else is. So as I said in the beginning, this is the correct basic position. It's very close to a standing position, except your heels are lower, okay? A lot of people want to sit like this, in a chair position. That is never going to put you in balance with your horse. So this basic position, sitting on the inside of the thighs and not sitting back here on your cushy part and on the back of your thighs, is really crucial. What I look at, and an easy guide for all of us, is if you look at the seam of her jeans here, from here to here, if I followed that line straight down, that line would come out right about at the horse's foot. If she is correct, that's about where it will come. If the stirrups are way too short, then this is going to happen. And notice that line's going to come out way up there. So get that thigh line established right away. Definitely need a bend here. And then, this is a difficult part, we need the weight not only down in the heel, so you're not pushing. A lot of initial elementary riders want to push on the stirrup. You shouldn't be pushing on the stirrup. You should be pushing down a little bit and stretching the Achilles tendon here, and not pushing hard, but having some weight on the heel. The other thing you need to do is to be able to get more weight on the inside of your foot than the outside of your foot. So if she's sitting correctly here, I should be able to see a little bit of the bottom of her boot, and I can see a little bit of the sole of her foot. So that is the key aspect. Sitting correctly on her two seat bones, not back on her cushy part, flat of the thigh against the saddle, this seam landing somewhere by the horse's front feet if it were to extend, a slight bend in the knee and the ankle for shock absorption. Take the time to look at the feet. Foot is in the stirrup, up past the toes to the ball of the foot. The weight is on the back of the foot and on the inside of the foot. The reason for that is it keeps the leg in close. If the rider rides with their weight on the baby toe side of the foot, it bows their legs out so they have no contact in here. A lot of riders sit on the horse like they're sitting on the couch, kind of slouchy. We want the rider to make the effort to hold their torso or the middle part of their body up straight. So spread those ribs apart a little bit. They're going to rotate those shoulders backwards so they're sitting nice and square through their shoulders. That ear is right on top of their shoulders. The head is heavy. It's 10 pounds or so. So if you ride with your head either forward or left or right, that can influence how your horse moves. The next aspect is your arms. Again, we talked about the shock absorbers in the lower body. We have shock absorbers in the upper body, so we need to be relaxed at the shoulder, at the elbow with a little bend here so her elbow's coming back and touching her ribs. So we'll get you to just lengthen your reins a little bit and just make your elbows come back. There, good. And she's still gonna have her lower hands in the correct position, still holding her two birds. So now we have the rider in the correct basic position. Notice her focus. Her head is up. She's not looking at the ground. She's looking straight ahead at her own eye level. By establishing the correct basic position, then from the side, we can see that the rider is sitting straight up and down. She is neither leaning forward nor back. So once we have that established, we need to either look at the rider either head on or from a rear point of view. And from that position, we need to see that the rider's spine is directly over the horse's spine. So sometimes, if you have difficulty seeing that, then look at other aspects. Look at the rider's heels. Their heels should be even. Look at their knees. Their knees should be even. Look at their hips. Their hips should be even from left to right. Look at their elbows. Look at their shoulders and notice that their head is sitting dead center on their shoulders. So long before you start your riding lessons in the spring, there's no reason why you can't practice that basic position and teaching these riders focus and suppleness when you have your winter indoor meetings. Get yourself some barrels. They will help a lot. So we can set the rider up correctly. Yeah, the barrel is a little bit wide, but some of the kids do ride some pretty wide horses. But she can try to maintain that correct basic position, hold her hands like we said, birds facing each other slightly, head up. And we're going to talk about focus, because this is where we have a lot of problem, is that everyone looks at their hands or looks at the ground. So we want this rider to be able to move. The other aspect is breathing. Get this rider to talk to you a little bit, because if they're talking, they've got to breathe. And then the next aspect is getting some suppleness, especially in the middle part of the body. We need to feel that horse moving underneath us. We have so many riders that want to grip on and hang on with their legs. So we have the rider here just practicing moving that barrel a little bit, catching herself with her heel, not her toe. So she's practicing keeping those feet in the correct position. And look at how loose she is in the middle of her body. I mean, most of us can ride the walk without locking too much in the middle. But as soon as the horse starts to go faster in the walk, then we start to lock up and brace against that movement. So if I can teach this rider to follow the motion of the barrel, then hopefully when we get to jogging and trotting, they'll feel that 1, 2, 1, 2, and then a little faster for the trot. 1, 2, 1, 2, and she will be able to loosen her hips like that and follow the horse's motion. Our job as coaches of Rider 1s is to teach them suppleness, balance, and rhythm. One of the easiest ways to do that is to put them on a horse, put a competent handler in front of them, leading the horse with a halter and a lead shank. Do not hook the shank to the bit and do not try to lead by the rein. Actually have a halter and a lead shank on the horse over top of the bridle. The other safety aspect, whether the rider is riding English or Western, is that the reins must be contained. We don't want the reins hanging on the neck. If they have Western split reins, they can tie a knot in them and hook them behind the horn. The English rider can run the reins underneath the stirrup leathers so that there's no chance if that horse should stumble that the reins go forward and the horse puts a foot through. Helmet is absolutely imperative for the rider to have to do these exercises, heeled boots, and obviously no spurs. One aspect that we sometimes forget to teach new riders is how much contact they actually need on the reins to put pressure on the horse's mouth. So here's a game that you can try. You don't even need the horse to do this. This is just a contact game. So what we're going to do is I am going to be the rider. So I'm going to take a hold of the rein here and I'm going to be the rider, and I'm going to teach this rider how much she needs to put contact on the horse's mouth to get it to do something. She in turn is going to pretend that the reins are the bit in the horse's mouth and her hands are the horse's mouth. So we're going to put some looseness in the rein, and I'm going to show her how to make contact. So the first thing we do when I want to contact with this horse's mouth is I pick up the rein until I take the slack out of it, and I feel now the bit touching the horse's mouth, which is her hand. Then I continue to pull slowly until the horse gives to me, which her hand did, and then I'm going to release. So I'll do that several times with her. I'll pick up the slack until I feel the bit touch her mouth, and then I pull until the horse responds. I don't